Tonight, new numbers reveal a status quo in the province's drug rates. That story, and
there is a substantive and real understanding of the value of the Canadian identity, sovereignty, and the fact that that cannot be eroded to meet the acute fiscal need.
Andrew Furey leads a roundtable discussion today to address Trump's tariff threats.
Not everyone loves snow, but this next group of riders say their winter bread and butter depends on it.
People from, all over and all ages. We're getting families, we're getting couples.
I'm Layla Baudouin in Quarterbrook, and that story is coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. Industries across the province are bracing for impact as 25% tariffs threatened by the new U.S. president could be imposed as early as Saturday. Politicians and industry leaders are scrambling to respond. Here and Now's Daryl Roberts has more.
I have to say it's a united Team Newfoundland and Labrador approach.
All hands on deck. That's the province's message in the face of U.S. tariff threats. And that's sorely needed, as over a third of this province's exports go to the United States, and between 10 and 20,000 jobs could be affected, a devastating impact on the local economy. Premier Andrew Furey wants the federal government to step up.
So I would like to see a COVID-style relief package that is responsive to the needs of the industry, but also the industries that are adjacent, as I've already suggested. I think that they have the ability, that they have levers that provincial governments don't have. They have monetary policy, they have different fiscal room, they have different fiscal instruments, different fiscal capacity than we do here as a provincial government.
The Premier brought together over 30 industry and labor leaders today to discuss the provincial response. Some industries, like the fishery, could be hit particularly hard. More than 90% of snow crab goes south of the border.
That's not a volume that can be absorbed locally, and diversifying markets is not going to happen overnight. So we're really concerned what it's going to mean for consumer buying power in the United States. Snow crab is such a niche product, and consumers will try to find cheaper alternatives, and that's definitely not what we want to see, especially when we've come off a couple of really difficult years and we're finally seeing the marketplace start to rebound.
Part of the province's plan to boost the economy, a formal buy local marketing campaign.
Stickers and signs that can be put up next to products that we should all be proud of. And one of the things that was quite clear in the discussions today, that while this is an incredible moment of anxiety and disruption, we shouldn't let this moment pass. And this is stuff we should have been doing anyway. And we should be proud of our products. I'm incredibly proud of our products. We need to be making sure that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and Canadians at large understand the products and what value they can bring to them.
Trump's exact plans are still unclear. Yesterday, his pick for Secretary of Commerce said Canada could avoid tariffs for now if the federal government does enough to secure its border with the U.S. But they could still come later this year. With so many unknowns and February 1st looming, the Premier is telling industry leaders to keep an eye on their phones. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, shortly after the Premier spoke today, both opposition parties also addressed reporters, and they called on government to stand up for provincial interests.
It is a worrisome thing. It's also something, though, that we know it has been coming. We know there's been talk of this since the president got elected back in November. So it's very important for the province, in addition to being part of Team Canada, to make sure that we have a approach in Newfoundland and Labrador that reflects the concerns of all of the different industries and the workers.
I know it comes to a buy local approach is good, but there are many people who are still going to be struggling to buy local, to like local products. So there's going to have to be something there to make sure that people who are already on the margins are, packages, support, financial support, seniors, you name it, to make sure that they're able to still make ends meet.
Well, on the West Coast, the province's last pulp and paper plant is also bracing for tariffs, but it may have learned a few lessons during the last Trump presidency. Elizabeth Whitten has that story.
Corner Brook Pulp and Paper has seen the good times, the bad times, and everything in between. This isn't the first time the Kruger-owned mill has faced down tariffs from Donald Trump. In 2018, the mill was hit with a 32% duty on its products. Kruger stood to lose about $30 million a year, though the tariff was eventually lifted. As a result, the company began looking beyond buyers from south of the border. The most recent provincial budget gives a peek into Kruger's West Coast operations and who it now sells to. Turns out India now buys more of its product than the U.S. A Kruger spokesperson refused an interview request from CBC News, but the Board of Trade in the area shared its thoughts.
I think that everybody's starting to recognize over the past few years that diversity in the market is what's needed. So we're starting to see a lot of diversification here in Corner Brook.
Keith Golding says Kruger learned a valuable lesson 7 years ago. It can't rely too heavily on one market. He adds there's work to make sure this province is protected against punishing tariffs in the future.
Very quickly, we need to pivot and look at what are we doing in the next 3, 5, 10 years to make it so that we don't fall into this trap again.
It's no secret the United States remains a massive market for this province. Golding says there's opportunity to ease trade barriers within Canada.
I think it's high time for that made in Canada style approach and look at how we can increase our manufacturing and increase our export from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Corner Brook Mayor Jim Parsons says Kruger successfully navigated U.S. tariffs 7 years ago and is confident it will triumph over Trump again.
They were overcome, and I think likewise, this too shall pass. It will cause us maybe some short-term hiccups here and there, but I think the long-term that we'll have a plan to address this.
Parsons believes the situation will sort itself out. America needs products made in his town, including its newsprint. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, in other news, the number of deaths from accidental drug overdoses in the province continues to be far higher than prior to the pandemic. It's a struggle shared by communities right across the country, but as Ryan Cook reports, the biggest killer here is not an opioid.
More people in Newfoundland and Labrador died from ingesting cocaine last year than any other drug. The common party drug killed twice as many people as fentanyl, and when those people die, they end up on the table of Dr. Nash Denich, the province's chief medical examiner.
It is frustrating, but it's more frustrating looking at these bodies of young individuals who are in their primes and thinking about the full life being in front of them, and they're here on my autopsy table.
61 people died accidentally due to drugs last year. That's down slightly from 65 in 2023, but it's still double pre-pandemic rates and 3 times higher than the stats 10 years ago.
So we don't really have a bit of time for us to grieve.
Jeff and Tammy Bourne run U-Turn, a peer support group for those struggling with addictions, and Tammy has a theory on why the pandemic was such a turning point.
We've had a lot of people who had a lot of long-term recovery in and went back out using during the pandemic because of the stress and the isolation.
Denich, meanwhile, says it's not that opioids aren't a problem. He believes mitigation efforts, like equipping people with naloxone kits, have been a big success. But they're ineffective against cocaine.
What individuals have to know that cocaine is still most dangerous drug. And the reason being that we don't have an antidote.
Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Memorial University is warning people to avoid feeding birds to prevent the spread of bird flu. The virus first started killing birds in Newfoundland and Labrador in 2021. In recent years, it's spread around the globe and is still being found in this province. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Here on Memorial University's campus at Burton's Pond, the ducks are literally begging to be fed. But Munn is advising people not to do it.
So, I mean, if you like ducks and you want to do them a favor, don't feed them.
And it's not just ducks. All sorts of birds, like these pigeons, can contract and pass on avian influenza.
That virus is spread by contagion. So if you get a sick animal and you pack a lot of them together, the probability of that virus spreading has just increased tremendously.
The H5N1 strain that's infecting birds is deadly for chickens. And this week there were 2 dead ducks here at Burton's Pond, although it's impossible to know without testing if it was bird flu that killed them. Montevecchi has done research on gannets like these at Cape St. Mary's. He says the virus was first found here in a small number of birds in 2022.
And I said, you know, the fuse is lit. And in the next 2 months, thousands of gannets died in the next 2 months. So you get one bird showing up and then boom.
The virus has also infected and killed other animals like foxes and even cows. And in extremely rare cases, people who work on farms have been infected too.
There are concerns, you know, they're minor, but you can't ignore them. There are concerns about human transmission to humans, and there's been a few rare cases on farms.
Researchers here at MUN have been looking at hundreds of carcasses of fur-bearing animals that they've collected from trappers. Those carcasses are being tested for bird flu, but the researchers don't have results to report yet. In the meantime, MUN is urging caution. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, love it or hate it, snow is an essential part of winter. When the snow falls on the island's west coast, business revs up. But this year has gotten off to a pretty slow start, and that's bad news for some. The CBC's Layla Baudouin reports.
It's a sound that some might want to bottle up. Like people who count down to these winter months to ride snowmobile. A love of riding that has this Corner Brook snowmobile shop's phone ringing off the hook.
Actually, we had a call just in from someone who's visiting St. John's, want to come snowmobiling here on the West Coast.
Shop manager Craig Borden says it doesn't stop there. Their snowmobile tours are booked from people all across the country.
I would say probably, 75% of our guests are from outside the province that come here to ride and do tours with us.
Like 2 girlfriends in their 60s who booked today, coming to Corner Brook from as far away as Saskatchewan.
But they want to go out and have a hot chocolate in the woods and do snowmobile and learn how to ride a snowmobile on their own.
It's a form of winter tourism loved by many, but this bustling economy depends on dumps of snow.
Definitely. So, the people that come are they're renting chalets, they're staying in hotels, they're going out for supper, they're buying gas. People have trips planned and weekends that are booked, a year in advance to get out and ride. So, yeah, I totally feel for people that don't have snow in their area that can't get out and snowmobile.
And this winter has not gotten off to a good start for some.
There was no snow, they can't go, people don't move.
The slow snow start is having an impact on Mullen. Take a look at this video from outside his Hawke's Bay business last year compared to this year.
But we've had times on Saturdays that the girls have come in to go to work and had to park out in the middle of the parking lot, or almost had to get a ride to work. There was nowhere to park. The amount of machines there is amazing. I've counted as high as 110, 20 vehicles parked around the parking lot. Oh, this year there might be 7 or 8.
Usually lined with skidoos and people heading into the backcountry, but not this year, with little snow on the ground.
And it's pretty drastic on businesses. I know the motel down here and our business, of course, is just, it's nobody moved.
But the flakes are falling, and Mullen says he hopes the sounds of snow machines will quickly fill the air. Not everyone is happy when they hear that there's snow in the forecast, but around here and many parts of the province, people who rely on that snowmobile economy, they're not just hoping for snow, they're banking on it. Layla Baudouin, CBC News.
Well, the snow squall is certainly helping on the west coast of the province. We saw lots of snow as well for most of the island today. That has moved off. We still got some windy conditions up across Labrador, but that cold air is still a recipe for those snow squalls to continue, especially for the west. So that will be the story tonight and into the first part of tomorrow, along with these windy conditions across the island. And we've got another shot of snow on the way tomorrow night and into Saturday. I'll break it all down for you a little later.
St. John's-based nonprofit organization Choices for Youth is getting funding of over $250,000 from the province. The announcement was made at the organization's outreach center earlier today. The one-time funding will go towards the Mama Moments program, which offers wraparound services to young mothers and their children. The program supported over 200 mothers and children last year, offering pre- and postnatal health care as well as social supports.
Choices for Youth, we want to do more around early intervention and prevention. We really believe that it's better for us to focus on supporting, young moms, young children earlier in their lives so that there's not a downstream effect of homelessness, poverty, and other negative outcomes. The Mama Moments program does exactly that. So an investment like this is really an investment in the future of youth in our province, and it's also an investment in children, which is really exciting for us. As an organization, traditionally we've been very focused on 16 to 29, but it's through investments like this that we've actually been able to grow our age mandate. And today, our age mandate is 0 to 29, really reflecting our commitment to supporting youth and children earlier in their lives and preventing some of those negative downstream effects.
Well, while it's a later start than the province's other two ski resorts, White Hills and Clarenville officially opened for business yesterday. Troy Turner checked in with the resort and visitors about their first day on the slopes and upcoming season.
There's turning and carving and a whole lot of winter fun. And winter sport lovers from the region didn't have to be asked twice to make their way to the hill.
The snow is awesome and the trailers run well. Very excited. I didn't think they were going to open because of no snow, but they managed to pull it off and we're here today.
It's a bit icy, but what else can you expect for the first day, really? It's still pretty good overall, though. I was pretty excited. I didn't go to school today because of it, so I guess that shows how much it was.
I was pretty excited just coming to ride.
For now, only 2 runs are open, but the White Hills crew is working feverishly to make more snow. Last night's dump of snow definitely helped, and there's more expected to fall leading into the weekend.
You need to have at least 2 feet of coverage through the whole thing. You're going to endure some rainstorms, so you have to be prepared for that. And the bottom takes the biggest hit, of course, because the water's all running down the hill. So you have to make sure that the base is thick and the runs have enough snow that you can get through those mild spells all winter.
Carmichael is the brand new operations manager of the resort, arriving here from Cape Breton just after Christmas.
When I first pulled in, I couldn't believe the mountain size and the steeps that you can see here. And the rugged terrain. It's very rugged up there, and it makes for making snow difficult, but it's a beautiful resort.
As a first course of action, he's hoping to bring a lot more fun to the resort and turn it into an all-around experience for everyone.
All the family can come up here, enjoy the afternoon, have a snack, listen to some music, get out on the snow. So we're trying to build more events around just the ski product because it's a social atmosphere up here.
And after all, that's what many of today's visitors came for.
Being able to come here on the weekends, not being playing video games or other stuff that's keeping you inside, it kind of brings me out and kind of helps me have more fun in the winter.
The skiers and snowboarders here are excited for the season ahead with the possibility of the opening of more runs. Of course, to do that, they'll need more snow, whether that comes from the machine or Mother Nature. Troy Turner, CBC News, White Hills.
Well, the province has put in place a disaster assistance program. That's after a storm surge impacted several communities across the province earlier this month. The area from the southern shore all the way to Gander Bay on the northeast coast is covered under the program. Home and small business owners, but also tenants and municipalities can apply for compensation for damages. But residents are asked to contact their insurance companies first, as the program only compensates for items that are deemed essential. The deadline to submit an application is April 30th. The storm surge in early January had hit several places across the province hard, including the St. John's Battery and Gambo, which declared a state of emergency. Ashley, a pretty good dose of snow today.
Absolutely. I have some of those numbers rounded up for you. Take a look at the numbers from the last couple of days, or from the last 24 hours, I should say. 30 centimeters fell in Grand Falls, Windsor. Gander, 24 centimeters. And Millertown picked up 22 centimeters. So we did see some more fluffy snow, which is leading to those bigger numbers there. And then areas like Terra Nova picked up 20 centimeters of snow. St. John's 15, but we've since added to that this afternoon. Another couple of centimeters has fallen. And areas like Clarenville, Whitburn, between 9 and 11 centimeters of snow. And again, northern portions of the Avalon seeing some more. We still have that area of low pressure offshore right now, but the wind warnings along the coast have ended. But we do still have a wind warning for the northern peninsula east. But there's a look at that snow that I was talking about. So we picked up about 2 to as much as 4, even 5 centimeters of snow in some areas. There's a little bit of snow developing there, again, along southern areas of the Avalon. And this should end over the next couple of hours, but we still very much have snow squalls on the go for the west. And you can see the streamers of cloud cover moving in as well. And this will pretty much continue through tonight until we get into tomorrow, where eventually the winds will shift a little bit and those snow squalls should break apart for a little bit. Now, as far as the current temperatures and wind chills go, minus teens is what it's feeling like in the east, the west into the minus 20s, and then Labrador, particularly in Lab West, feels more like minus 38 right now with that wind chill. Still very much in that cold air, and that will continue as we head through tonight. So yeah, wind chill, or rather wind warning in effect for the northern peninsula east. That will be for tomorrow into the afternoon, but we do still have those snow squall watches in effect from Corner Brook through to Port aux Basques, and then including the Burin Peninsula at this point, where is the best chance that we will see those snow squalls. Now, with the way the winds are tonight and into tomorrow, we could see some of that snow reach the southern portion of the Avalon as well. So keep that in mind. But again, most of the accumulation should be for the west coast and then the Burin Peninsula, where, you know, if you're in some persistent squalls, you could see upwards of 15 to maybe even 25 centimeters of snow by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon. But again, as those temperatures drop tonight, along with those windy conditions, wind chills are going to be significant through the overnight. Again, Lab City, you're going to sit around minus 30 as your overnight low, and your wind chills will be in the minus 40s for most of the night. And then even towards the coast, your wind chills will be in the minus 30s, and across the island, minus teens and minus 20s. That will be the story as you head out the door tomorrow morning as well, and even into the afternoon. So certainly going to want to bundle up, although temperatures will be still sitting in the minus single digits. Your wind chills will be in the minus teens and minus 20s through the day. Now, as far as the snow squall potential, it should improve as we head into the afternoon and evening. And again, that's because the winds will shift because our next weather maker is moving in. That will bring another shot of snow for the southwest, and it'll work its way across the island as we head through the evening, and then eventually overnight for the eastern half of the island. And this will move through fairly quickly by the time we get into tomorrow morning. That should end, although there is some indication that the southeastern portion of the island will still see some of that snow linger into the afternoon. But as far as the snowfall amounts go, most of that accumulation should happen east at this point. That's what it's looking like. So we could be talking about anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters of snow falling by Saturday morning. Southern areas of the Avalon may see more than that. And again, those of you that are in persistent squalls will likely see somewhere between 15 to as much as 25 centimeters of snow. There's your daytime highs tomorrow. Again, winds out of the west, gusting 60 to as much as 80 kilometers per hour tomorrow. It is not going to be a nice day as far as that goes. But like I said, bundle up if you're heading out. And for Labrador, coastal areas, minus teens, some sunshine, again, windy. Through the day, though, a little less windy, though, for those of you in the west, but your temperatures definitely chilly. Minus 22 will be your daytime high. Now, we have some more snow through the weekend. I'll get into all of that when I come back a little later.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Adey, host of Land and Sea. Coming up this Sunday, a brand new show all about something that Newfoundland and Labrador has a lot of: rock. For Daniel Alacock, there's nowhere he'd rather be than on the side of a cliff.
When I touch the rock, when I get my feet on the rock, everything goes away. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the clouds or in another world. I just lose all sense of anything, really. It's just me and the wall. It's beautiful.
A tree climber as a boy, when he found rock climbing, he locked on.
Nice, Daniel.
It was really like a love at first sight. I was like a little bit of a nerdy kid, a little bit athletic. I had done sports as a kid, and I didn't really like the team sports. I'm much better when I'm like focused on something myself. And so climbing was just perfect. I was getting pretty interested in small business. I felt like I learned a lot from climbing, and I wanted others to feel the same. Basically, I wanted to bring climbing to more people.
So back in 2023, Daniel took a leap.
So you want to start relaxed in your shoulders, but like kind of up a little bit. Does that make sense?
He went into partnership with some other passionate climbers, and together they opened The Cove. Quite literally a place for people to hang out.
Creating the gym and building the community here. Yeah. That was the solution to basically everything. My lifestyle, my passion to fuel it, and to like watch other people grow in the same way.
So that's a show all about the sport of rock climbing. It's also a sentimental show about the loss of a very special member of the rock climbing community. So it's a show called Rock Climbing Rapture. You can see it this Sunday at 11:30. That's 11 o'clock in most of Labrador. If you miss it on Sunday, you can always watch on Monday after Here and Now, or you can see it online on CBC Gem or on CBC Newfoundland and Labrador's YouTube channel. So we'll see you this Sunday.
Hi, I'm Rick Mercer with the offer of a lifetime and a very big ask. In less than a year, the 2025 Canada Games are coming to Newfoundland and Labrador, and that means we've got company coming, big time. The numbers are mind-boggling. This coming August, 25,000 people from all across Canada are going to descend on this province for the Games, and every single one of them can't wait to get here. They've heard good things, so we need to ensure they have the time of their life, the games of their life. As a province, we've got to knock this one out of the park. So here's the ask. We need you to represent Team Newfoundland and Labrador at the Games. We need 5,000 volunteers, all ages, all skills. You would not believe the jobs that need to be filled, the experience you will get, the friends you will make. To make these games work, there are so many moving pieces, but the most important piece, the final piece, the mission-critical piece is you. Visit the website, join the team.
Well, returning now to our top story, when Premier Andrew Furey finished speaking this afternoon, some industry and union leaders spoke with reporters. They're watching Trump's every move as they say tariffs could significantly impact the province's economy.
I'm here to represent the service and supply companies that are involved in the oil industry. But as you know, the oil industry is the most significant contributor to GDP in the province. And with that, there comes an enormous multiplier effect. So when our industry is doing well, construction is doing well, retail sales is, doing well. So it is a significant contributor, and that's why it's so important that we're all here around this table together, helping each other, and that's one of the things that have come out of this. As the Premier mentioned, the offshore oil product is unique in that it can go to anywhere in the world. We're not reliant on one customer, so that is an advantage. However, if we have to wait and see, but if the prices of oil starts to drop, that could have an impact in terms of production numbers, which would then ultimately impact our members. So some of the things that we talked about here today is the Atlantic Investment Tax Credit, looking at that, looking at the weighting and the matrix for procurement for government procurement in particularly? Is there an opportunity to increase that weighting for Newfoundland Labrador companies? And of course, if the impact comes down to our individual workers and their families, we would look to the government for support. But the one thing that has really come to light with all of this is the importance of energy security and how we should be producing more oil in Newfoundland and Labrador and supplying our lower carbon product to the world. And with such uncertainty in the economy right now is not the time to be bringing in things like the emissions cap. That's only going to drive away investment, and we need the absolute opposite of that right now.
We're very thankful for the Premier creating this forum. I think it's very important that we're all at the table. It just shows how important this issue is to our provincial government. And to hear the Premier always put the fishery and the impacts first and foremost in discussions, I mean, it means a lot to us, it means a lot to our members. Given the timelines that we're facing right now, we're in a critical moment of collective bargaining on snow crab. We're coming off a few very tumultuous years, and we need stability in our industry. So, to see that that's first and foremost and being addressed is super, super important. We met with the federal fisheries minister yesterday as well, and it was good to see that the federal government is taking all of our concerns very seriously. But again, we stress the importance of the federal government stepping in right now with supports to help our workers as harvesters, that's plant workers. Of course, we represent 14,000 to 15,000 workers in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, and I think that's important as well. The fishing industry is the driver of rural Newfoundland and Labrador. These are very good seasonal jobs that keep our rural communities going, and we're going to need help. As the Premier said, over 90% of our snow crab last year went into the United States. So that's not a volume that can be absorbed locally, and diversifying markets is not going to happen overnight. So we're really concerned what it's going to mean for consumer buying power in the United States. Snow crab is such a niche product, and consumers will try to find cheaper alternatives, and that's definitely not what we want to see, especially when we've come off a couple of really difficult years and we're finally seeing the marketplace start to rebound.
From my perspective, we have good union representation, good representation of workers around this table. And so, our priority, and the Premier has made that very clear, is to ensure that workers are protected should these tariffs come into effect, whether it's on Saturday or in the months to come. So we're looking for really concrete measures from the federal government, whether it's around modernizing employment insurance and bringing back in some of the changes they made during the pandemic, or providing wage subsidies to employers to make sure that people are able to maintain employment and not suffer layoffs or job losses. But there are also provincial levers that we can use, labor market development agreements, for example. So we're taking a look at all the kind of opportunities that we have to ensure that we can protect workers and protect families.
Well, Canadian farmers are among those bracing for possible U.S. tariffs. As CBC's Cameron McIntosh shows us, in an industry that relies heavily on U.S. exports, many farmers are feeling hogtied.
Manitoba is one of Canada's biggest hog producers. Millions are shipped and processed in the United States.
We sell actually all our pigs into the U.S. market.
John Nichols sends a truck each week. So yeah, tariffs make him nervous.
We obviously don't want it. Nobody really wants this or needs it.
Pigs don't just stop growing, so it's either sell or slaughter them. Like poultry and beef, Canada is just too small to consume all the meat it produces.
We would have to cut back our production or, worst case scenario, shut down the farm.
Similar worries for Colin Penner. He grows grains bound for the U.S. Usually this time of year, he's focusing on his equipment. Right now, it's Donald Trump.
Even as Trump was elected in November, we said we better get our fertilizer home because something might go silly. We've locked in interest rates for the next 4 years.
Agriculture and agri-food account for 7% of Canada's GDP. 1 in 9 jobs, about 2.3 million people. 60% of our agriculture exports go to the U.S. This economist wonders how much tolerance Americans may have for rising prices.
Those prices are going to go up. Now, the big question is, how is that going to impact on the shelves in U.S. groceries?
Even without retaliatory tariffs, food prices could rise here for Canadian goods that are processed in the U.S. before being brought back to be sold here. Penner is looking for a silver lining.
There's always something to benefit in chaos, but I'm nervous. I'm definitely very nervous.
With billions of dollars at stake, there's a stark reality in agriculture. Canada, which relies heavily on exports, especially to the United States, would struggle to simply eat its way out of a trade problem. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, near Winnipeg.
And still with tariffs, the CBC's Ashley Burke looks at what officials on the federal level are doing to avoid a trade war.
It's a show of force for an audience of one. Canada trying to convince Donald Trump the border's secure, this time with new Black Hawk helicopters and talks about arrests.
The RCMP has successfully charged a few human smugglers, and as we speak, there are more files being reviewed by the prosecutor.
Tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 25%. That's coming on Saturday?
That's coming on the 1st, Saturday.
The U.S. president once again today threatening 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
Because we have very big deficits with those countries, those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
He also reiterated that it's because of human smuggling and fentanyl he says is entering the U.S. from both countries.
Not only we have a strong border, but the billion-dollar investment we've done on behalf of Canadians to secure our border is a testament to the fact that we want to engage in a respectful way with our American friends.
With the clock ticking, ministers are in D.C. trying to stop the tariffs, and contingency plans are underway back home in case they can't.
The government of Canada is prepared. The government of Canada will retaliate. The government of Canada will protect workers.
Some mayors at border towns calling on Canadians to help too by boycotting American goods.
Start sending a signal to our U.S. neighbors that, we have purchasing power as well.
Let's put in place supports before the worst happens.
The leader of the NDP doubling down, calling on the Prime Minister to recall Parliament to pass legislation to protect workers and businesses if Trump goes ahead.
If the Liberals think that they can wait 2 months before they bring in legislation, they are wrong. That would allow workers to suffer for 2 months.
Government sources say there's no plan to recall Parliament early, but that Ottawa is working on a multi-billion-dollar relief package. The Prime Minister is expected to meet with the Canada-U.S. Council tomorrow to prepare for whatever Trump does next. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
U.S. officials are investigating a deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and a military helicopter near Washington on Wednesday. There are no survivors among the 64 people on board the American Airlines flight or the 3 soldiers on the chopper. Caroline Bargout has the details.
This is the audio of air traffic controllers trying to warn a Black Hawk helicopter moments before it crashed into American Airlines Flight 5342. 60 passengers and 4 crew were on board the plane on its way to Washington from Wichita, Kansas. On the Black Hawk, 3 U.S. soldiers were on a night training exercise. 300 emergency responders rushed to the scene in a desperate search for survivors in the icy Potomac River.
Despite all those efforts, we are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation.
The National Transportation Safety Board has taken the lead on the investigation.
We do not know enough facts to be able to rule in or out human factor, mechanical factors.
Among the 67 dead, 14 were American skaters on their way back from a national development camp in Wichita, Kansas. 6 of them connected to the Boston Skating Club, including 16-year-old skater Spencer Lane and his mother Molly, 16-year-old skater Gina Ha and her mother Jin, and their coaches, former world champions Evgenia Yishkova and her husband Vadim Nomov, who won the world championship in pairs figure skating in 1994, and their 23-year-old son Maxime.
It's a close, tight bond, and I think for all of us, we have lost family.
The crash happened on the Transportation Secretary's first day. Sean Duffy promises officials will get to the bottom of it.
Everyone who flies in American skies expects that we fly safely, that when you depart an airport, you get to your destination. That didn't happen last night.
Without evidence, U.S. President Donald Trump blamed the crash on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that may have factored into the hiring of air traffic controllers.
My administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent.
A team of investigators from Canada are also on site to help out. The Trump administration says it won't rest until it has answers. Caroline Bargood, CBC News, Washington.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped?
Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Inuk First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, before we get to the weather, we wanted to show you this great photograph. Hopefully it makes you smile. It is so adorable.
My goodness, it really is. It was taken by Stuart White, a photographer from Mount Pearl, and shows two red fox kits playing in the dirt in Bonavista.
Oh my goodness, this photo actually won White a spot in the 2024 Canadian Photos of the Year list by the Canadian Geographic magazine in the Flora, Fauna and Fungi category.
The annual competition honors 14 photographers who capture some of the best shots of the year. Congratulations, Stuart. What a shot.
Oh, I just like to leave that up, you know, let's just look at that for another 5 minutes.
I think we all could look at that for
a nice dose of cuteness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nice. And congratulations, Stuart.
Yes, congratulations.
Okay, so let's talk about the long range forecast because we're getting closer and closer to the weekend.
Yeah.
How are things looking?
So it's going to start a bit snowy, especially for, well, most of the island, really. But the afternoon should turn into a beautiful afternoon. So let's take a look at what's going on for your Friday evening. So that's that area of low pressure I was talking about a little bit earlier. Now, temperatures Saturday morning may pop up above zero. So what does fall is going to be very wet, very similar to what fell today for the eastern portion of the island. It was very fluffy through central. But that looks like that's going to happen again for most of eastern Newfoundland. That should end fairly quickly into the afternoon, and it'll turn into a beautiful day. So it'll be a perfect day to get out and enjoy the weather for really across the board as a ridge of high pressure starts to dominate the picture through the afternoon. And we'll see a little bit of relief from the snow squalls. Now, along southern areas of really the west coast and the southern areas of the west coast, southwest coast, we'll see the potential for some snow. But it'll be a lot less numerous, certainly, than we've been seeing. Temperatures are still going to hang out in the minus single digits. Northern Peninsula, minus double digits. And then Labrador, again, temperatures really not moving a whole lot, and they haven't, and they won't as we head through Saturday. Temperatures around minus 20 in Lab City, otherwise between minus 13 and minus 17 for the rest of the Big Land. Now, as we head into Sunday, again, the potential for some squalls. The winds out of the, onshore, but out of the northwest at this point. So the squalls will be mainly directed towards the southwest, so keep that in mind for your Sunday. And that will change, though, a little bit as we head into the evening hours as those winds become a little bit more westerly. Other than that, a quiet day. That will be the story for Labrador as well. Temperatures will drop. A big roller coaster ride of temperatures over the next couple of days. So back down to anywhere between minus 6 to minus 14 across the island, and Labrador really not moving a whole lot for you, just a couple of degrees here and there, but overall in the minus teens and minus 20s for your Sunday, but beautiful with lots of sunshine. Temperatures, again, another ride on the roller coaster as we head into next week. Tuesday at this point now looking like we'll see a bit of a warm up for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland with temperatures around 4 degrees, so either rain or snow at times through the day. And then for central Newfoundland, you are looking at that changeover happening in the evening and overnight for central. So temperatures will pop up near zero Tuesday. And then for western Newfoundland, again, squalls continuing. Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures in the minus teens right through Tuesday with some snow on the way for eastern Labrador and western Labrador. You're looking at your temperatures similar, but some snow on Monday. Speaking of Labrador, in Mulligan, we never get photos.
Oh.
Some ice fishing adventures there. Thank you so much to Iris for that photo. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, great shot there. I guess there aren't any places on the island to go ice fishing. It hasn't been cold enough for long enough.
I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
No.
Unless you
but
know.
Labrador for sure.
Yeah,
it's been cold there for a while. It's steady cold.
Yeah, for sure.
As opposed to us, which is up and down. Another warm up next week.
That's right. I'm sure there are some ponds that, are shallow and frozen.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening